Story 1. Here is some information that may put things in context. In 1994, the Soviet Union had fallen, leaving nuclear weapons in the hands of fragile, corrupt, and possibly hostile successor states. 3,200 warheads were left behind in Ukraine, Kazakhstan, and Belarus, many atop intercontinental ballistic missiles that could launch and hit anywhere in the world. There was not much concern about the ones in Kazakhstan or Belarus, as neither country had the technical know-how to maintain or launch them. Treaties with Russia quickly drew those nuclear weapons back within Russian territorial boundaries. Ukraine was a very different story. Ukraine was a technological and manufacturing powerhouse from the former Union of Soviet Socialist Republics and had both manufactured most of those nukes and missiles, but also was the primary source of trained personnel to maintain them and build new ones. In fact, Russia actually had to conclude a later treaty with Ukraine to provide skilled labor to maintain those nuclear weapons that Russia had. But that is another story. Knowing Ukraine had the know-how and capability to possess nuclear weapons, but also knowing Ukraine, at the time, was hopelessly corrupt and did not want to spend money on those weapons, the United States, United Kingdom, Russia, and Ukraine entered into nuclear non-proliferation talks with the goal of denuclearizing Ukraine. Those talks succeeded and became United Nations Treaty Registration Number 52241, colloquially known as the Budapest Memorandum, in agreement to return the nuclear weapons to Russia, the United States, and Great Britain gave vague security assurances which boiled down to two concrete treaty responsibilities. First, none of the signatories would invade Ukraine, and in the event of invasion, the signatories would be required to meet and determine a course of action to support Ukraine's sovereignty. Story 2. Literally every conservative I know in real life is either aghast at the abandonment of Ukraine or generally ambivalent about foreign engagements entirely but still not happy about it. The online right is just a different beast. Story 3. As an actual conservative, Mitt Romney was right. Russia is awful. Ukraine has every right to defend itself from aggression. It is depressing that people cannot see that. Russia's money funneled to conservative media has really paid off for them. Story 4. If you go into their subreddit, pretty much all of them believe Trump is just trolling. It was hard to even find the one post that mentions his executive order the other day that says only he and the Attorney General can define what's illegal. Story 5. Real conservatives didn't want to keep writing a blank check. But they also absolutely did not want complete capitulation, to parrot enemy talking points, or to join the Russians. The Ukrainians didn't start the war. Story 6. I'm just as conservative as I ever was. I believe in limited government. I believe in personal freedom. I also believe that the two United States parties are now just two groups supporting right or wrong, with Republicans supporting everything that's wrong since 2016. Trump and the Republican Party are traitors who have turned their backs on the United States, our allies, Ukraine, and me. Forget them all. Story 7. I left when the the party aligned itself with Donald Trump in 2016. It stopped focusing on providing a critique of Keynesian economics and the scope of government, becoming nothing more than an agent of whim fulfillment for a conman. The party has transformed into something so unrecognizable it's beyond belief. Ronald Reagan would be turning in his grave faster than a General Electric turbine at this point. Story 8. I'm a conservative. The grand old party stopped being my party in 2016. This shift and the selling out of Ukraine will one day be considered the worst geopolitical mistake since the end of the Cold War. Story 9. You will get a lot of people in here saying they support peace, like Russia did not invade a sovereign democracy and murder a bunch of people. Now, Trump is going to hand his buddy 20% of the country and an absolution of guilt for the aggression. Peace. Story 10. I hate everything about my former party. Nothing makes sense anymore. Christians falling at the knee to a proud adulterer, violence promoter, and a belittler of others. Business people supporting a failed businessman. Law enforcement supporting someone who has no regard for the law unless he can use it to his own advantage. Military supporting a man who has no regard for the Constitution he was sworn to protect. The party of limited federal government now has a leader that has collected more executive power than ever seen in just 1 month's time, breaking foreign alliances that produce incredibly favorable outcomes for the United States for a crumbling paper tiger. retreating from a world stage that has protected steady stability in all areas of the globe. I don't know what history books his supporters have read or need to read, but I hope people wake up soon. Story 11. I'm convinced Americans are incapable of processing what's happening in the world. America is a land of delusion and distraction. As long as people can still get Starbucks, watch the game, and waste time engaging in the national pastime of consumerism, they simply don't care. Story 12. I haven't seen any conservatives defending Trump's recent statements. I've checked the news, and none of the Republican politicians I've seen have agreed with him. Story 13. Good God. So many people here totally in favor of straight-up mass murder. Make no mistake, if you support Russia, it's you telling the world, I enjoy the mass murder of these innocent people in a peaceful country. Sickening. Story 14. I'm a registered Republican who has not voted Republican since the invasion of Iraq in 2003. I foresaw the situation that would emerge, the Sunni versus Shia conflict, and thought, this is foolish. I feel that there are two questions. One, should the West help Ukraine defend itself against Russian aggression? And two, how should that defense be implemented and funded? Regarding the first question, Ukraine was invaded brutally, and the West should help to defend it. They gave up nuclear weapons in return for security guarantees that have been violated. As to the second question, it is more complex. The United States is broke and $35 trillion in debt, and simply does not have the capacity to fund the defense of Ukraine. Europe is much closer to the war zone, and Europe should, if not must, pay most of the cost of the defense of Ukraine. Otherwise, the United States will just sink deeper into debt. If Europe cannot finance the defense of Ukraine, Europe will pay the price. We could continue to print money or borrow from ourselves or overseas investors, going further down the debt hole, but sooner or later, the debt will overwhelm us and turn our already weak nation into the next Zimbabwe with hyperinflation rates. So, Ukraine needs to be defended, but Europe must take the lead and cover the majority of the expenses. Story 15. I'm extremely upset. As of today, I am no longer labeling myself a Republican, though I still hold values such as fiscal responsibility, small government, and the right to bear arms. The party took a hard turn to the right, and I don't see it stopping. Zelensky embodies courage, resilience, and a commitment to democracy, standing firm against Russian aggression and uniting global allies. He communicates effectively, inspiring both his people and the world. Trump, on the other hand, prioritizes self-interest, undermines democratic norms, and cozies up to authoritarian leaders like Putin. Where Zelensky defends freedom, Trump downplays threats to it. One leads with integrity in a crisis. The other sows division for personal gain. Why can't the United States have a politician like him? I miss John McCain. I'm so tired of fighting and arguing with supporters of Make America Great Again, online and in person. I don't know what to do anymore. I'm tired, ashamed, and I feel alone in a land dominated by Make America Great Again. Story 16. It's simple. Abandoning Ukraine is a total catastrophe that will single-handedly cause more problems for the nation than anything the idiot is doing domestically. Story 17. Note: to anyone downvoting others in this specific thread because you disagree with them, please realize the point of this thread is to get their honest opinions. You should be downvoting anyone who isn't providing their viewpoint from their side, not the viewpoint itself, just because you disagree with it. For example, downvote the ones saying, conservatives are lame, am I right? And upvote the ones explaining, this is the reason I feel this way. Otherwise, what's the point? Story 18. For anyone familiar with the 1980s, I will never understand how Reagan Republicans now support Russia. This shift is truly unbelievable given the geopolitical climate at that time. Heck, that was one of Reagan's so-called crowning achievements. I have no idea what is going on now. Story 19. I think some, not all, conservatives are not actually conservatives, but rather loyalists. They follow whomever they decided to be loyal to and will hardly criticize them. That is why we get comments like, but you did not criticize Biden, when in fact many liberals have and do. Story 20. I'm really disturbed and worried by the shift. It just feels so wrong for him to be accusing Ukraine and Zelensky when it's so clear that Russia is the aggressor. It's made me question everything. Story 21. I live in Louisiana and have asked several Make America Great Again Trump supporters this, and the general answer is that Trump is just being a neutral peacemaker and Ukraine is corrupt. So yeah, they are generally okay with it. Story 22. What party? What support? Going from supporting the tattooed-up neo-Nazis of the Ukrainian Azov legions to being neutral about the insane war and pushing for peace and diplomacy is not supporting Russia. Ukraine was never going to win. It was only a way to hurt Russia and launder millions of tax money to oligarchs and war criminals of the secret police dictatorship in Kiev. Story 23. It's like watching your favorite team suddenly start cheering for their biggest rival. Confusing, awkward, and making you question if you missed a memo. Story 24. I think Russia has used us as a villain in their propaganda and pointed out our government as flawed. And while they were wrong then, they aren't now, and that hurts my patriotic heart. At least now, when they point fingers, they will be pointing at themselves. The closer we get to mirroring them, the less they can criticize, I guess. Still, kneeling to any other nation was never in my thoughts growing up. And now not only do we bend the knee, we do it as they continue to talk down to us. It feels like this is our Luke moment, fighting Obi-Wan who is trying to steer us back while blindly following due to a skewed view we refuse to see past. The two-party system was always flawed, and I hate that it was my party that got turned around. While they speak our ideals on stage, they do the opposite in the background. Story 25. Not a conservative, but Russia and the United States working together to take over the world is not good. It is terrifying. Saying that Ukraine started it was absolutely disgusting and completely incorrect. Anyone who cannot see that is too far gone. We should expect way more from our president. Even if I agreed with his politics, I would not agree with lying on the international stage about the very basics of a horrible war where one country invades another. Story 26. Hey Echo Chamber. Posts to Republicans are always my favorite on this website. Either you're going to downvote them to oblivion or hold up their comment as proof for all Republicans. Story 27. It's ridiculous. I voted straight-ticket Republican my whole life until 2020. Ever since, I've watched in awe as the party of Ronald Reagan, who ostensibly helped dismantle the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, has lined up behind their ideology. Trump is a traitor, plain and simple. Story 28. There was no shift. Conservatives do not support Russia. Conservatives support ending the war. We think that Ukraine has a right to defend itself. We do not like the idea of a never-ending war that the United States pays for indefinitely. At the end of the day, Ukraine cannot win, and it is costing too many lives. It has to end. The only way to make that happen is to come to the negotiating table. Story 29. Who said anything about supporting Russia? How long do you guys want this war to go? It's disgusting how many people have died for this. It's all disgusting. Story 30. So, I'm a conservative, but I don't seem to have a lot in common with supposedly conservative politicians. They seem to be applying widespread changes pretty liberally. Story 31. Conservatives automatically support dear leader no matter what. They believe they will be spared in exchange for loyalty. Conservatives have always been the problem. Story 32. Not many conservatives on Reddit. This place is a massive echo chamber. But even as a liberal, let's be clear, Ukraine lost and Europe will never wake up to fight Russia seriously, mostly because of how much economic influence Russia has on the region. All Russia has to do is turn off its natural gas to Western Europe, which countries like Germany rely heavily on, Poland as well, though not technically Western Europe. Sanctions don't mean anything to Russia, which can make deals with other countries like India or China. The only way things change is boots on the ground, and the European Union won't do it. They just won't, and to read the quiet part out loud here, they won't do it without the United States spearheading it first, which it won't do because both conservatives and liberals, despite having different reasons, do not want United States troops fighting another war thousands of miles away. In that, America is unified. Moreover, the United States' response to Russian aggression has historically been weak under previous administrations. Not just Trump. In 2008, Russian tanks rolled into Georgia and the United States under Bush, and the European Union did nothing. In 2014, the Crimean Peninsula was annexed by Russia and Obama, and the European Union did nothing. In 2022, Russian forces began to invade eastern Ukraine, and Biden and the European Union did nothing. Now, in 2025, decades later and 3 previous United States administrations down the line, everyone is mad at the Republicans, conservatives, and Trump for trying to end a lost cause. It actually amazes me. Looking back, Russia made its most important advances in the region during Democratic administrations in the United States, and we have the gall to call Trump the Russian asset. Story 33. Quoting my one ultra-conservative redneck friend from college on this via Xbox multiplayer chat. This country is more concerned about a hockey match with Canada than it is about fighting a dictator who is killing the United States ally. It's just sad. Story 34. This isn't a conservatism thing, though, is it? This is a Republican thing and only a current administration kind of thing too. Kind of a loaded question. Not all who identify as conservative share the same view, similar to not all liberals sharing the same view.